buddy. Construct, sick 'em.
August 2023 was an interesting month. It saw the release of one of the year's most praised games, Baldur's Gate 3, and it also saw the release of one of the year's most forgotten games, Immortals of Aveum. In April 2024, PlayStation Plus members were given Immortals of Aveum as part of their monthly Essential Games offering. I immediately downloaded it and gave it a try, eager to see if the game truly deserved the average reviews it got. To my surprise, the game got off to a good start and I put in around 3 to 4 hours of playtime. However, the issues soon started cropping up and I uninstalled the game the same day. Now, as we approach the game's 1 year anniversary, I wanted to see if I could give it another try. Would I find the game bearable enough to finish it this time? And the answer is not yet. But I think that's partly because I continued my in progress game rather than starting fresh, meaning I lost touch with the game's mechanics. This game has design issues that make it really difficult to keep playing after a long break. I will probably start a fresh game sometime after this video goes live because I feel this game does have some merits and I want to see it to the end. For this video, I wanted to summarize the story behind this game. A lot has already been said about Immortals of Aveum by a lot of people, and I doubt I can add anything new to the discussion. That said, I feel that talking about these things from time to time will keep the conversation alive about the direction in which the video game market is headed. Today I wanted to talk a little about my experience with the game and also take a look back at the background for this game's development, how it was received at launch, and what happened after the launch. The summary of the video is this: Immortals of Aveum may be a flawed game, but the industry needs games like these right now. I'm talking about a linear, single-player, AAA production that does not have any microtransactions or any extra monetization model beyond the initial asking price. The studio which made the game is on life support right now, and I sincerely hope they pull through to bring another, hopefully smaller project to life. Now on to the full video. First, let me talk about my experience with the game and why I stopped playing it twice. Like I said earlier, the game was off to a good start and I thought my first 3 hours or so were quite decent. The finger gun gameplay mechanic got old real quick, but the actual gameplay loop felt okay. And the presentation was done well too. Where I got turned off was the constant focus on the color swapping mechanic. There are 3 types of magic in the game, denoted by 3 colors, and they are even named after the colors: blue, red and green. Each color signifies a different type of damage. Blue is long range, green is mid range, and red is short range. As you keep playing, you get used to switching between the different colors to fight enemies based on how far they are from you. The problem starts when certain enemies require you to match certain colors in order to remove a shield or to deal damage entirely. Then you have to cycle through your colors mid-battle. This feels tiresome after the first few times you do it. This is a sort of game mechanic where you either like it a little or you hate it a lot. If you hate it, the game becomes really difficult to keep playing. And that's what happened to me the first time I stopped playing in April. This time, I kept playing a little more and made it to the end of the 8th mission where I fought a named boss. In the 9th mission, the same boss returned, this time without a name, but with the exact same attack patterns. This felt like a lazy way to add some combat without having to add a different type of enemy. In the same mission, a new gameplay mechanic was introduced where an immortal enemy chases you around the room. The gimmick here is that you can't kill the monster outright, but you can stun it so that it stops moving. And you're supposed to stun it in a certain place, like on top of a switch. Making the monster stand on the switch opens a door to the next room. That felt a bit annoying, but it also offered a decent challenge. Later, this mechanic was dialed up to where two immortal monsters began chasing me around, and I was also required to solve some sort of puzzle to proceed to the next room. And this is where I stopped playing the second time. The gameplay mechanic, which felt like an annoying challenge the first time, now felt a bit too annoying. Dealing with one immortal monster in a small room is bad enough, but two of them in a small room at the same time on top of solving a puzzle. That's the sort of game design that turns off players. Some other people would have probably loved this challenge more than me, but in my case, I don't like doubling down on mechanics that are not fun in the first place. Later on, I felt I was overreacting. This mission was at the halfway point of the game, so the player is expected to be familiar with the game's mechanics, and I was jumping into the game after a gap of several months, so I barely remembered how things worked. So before giving up on the game entirely, I want to see if I like it any better once I get used to the gameplay mechanics again. For now, however, that's all I can say about my personal experience with the game.
The Sky Islands,
Careful.
unaware the Everwar
I'm being
approached
careful.
with winged
As careful as
sand
last time.
at his
Careful,
feet, and the wound
That's not a word.
now earth yawned wide as he spoke, declaring
Look, it's easy for random people like me to dismiss a game within seconds on YouTube. But I always remind myself that all games, especially those in the AAA space, require a huge amount of effort to come to the market. I admire Ascendant Studios for their effort. They took a huge bet and failed. But I'm still happy that they took that bet. If you look at the background of the studio, it is made up almost entirely out of industry veterans with decades of experience. It was this experience that gave them the confidence to raise funds and develop a AAA game as their studio's first game. You can take a look at their entire story in this 12-minute video if you are interested. The link will be in the description. Looking back now, it might be easy to say that betting so much on a new IP and a first-person shooter with no guns is a crazy risk. But again, I'm happy they took that risk. And while it's disappointing that more than half the people in the studio lost their jobs, given their experience and the technical strength of the product, it's very likely they have already found themselves another job or some sort of other project. This was a calculated risk that each of them took while taking a job at a new studio, and while in fairy tales everyone gets a happy ending, this time things just didn't go the way they were supposed to. Let's take a brief look at what happened at launch.
Sir? It's the hand.
Follow, but do not engage.
Maybe.
After spending 5 years in development with a budget of more than $85 million and a further $40 million to market it, Immortals of Aveum was released on August 22, 2023. It was originally supposed to come out in July, but got a brief delay. Upon release, it immediately became clear that the game looked good and felt like a really good demo of Unreal Engine 5's capabilities. Individual sections of the game were also praised by critics. Some liked the story, some liked the level design, some liked the art, and so on. But the common point behind most reviews seemed to be that Immortals just didn't feel like a game that you must play on day one. And it did not help that the game launched with a price tag of $70, which most players are not yet comfortable to pay even for well-known franchises, let alone a new IP from a brand new studio. And so the consensus remained that Immortals was a decent game, but maybe wait for the price to come down or for the game to be added to Game Pass. At least that's what I did, and that's what a lot of people did as well, because less than 1 month after the game's release, the studio announced that it was laying off 45% of its staff. Things got worse in April 2024 when reports came of another 30 staff members being furloughed, which is a temporary suspension of duties, which seems to be worse than being fired. Notably, April 2024 was when the game released on the PS Plus catalog. The studio announced that it was working on its next project, but there haven't been any more details so far. And that brings us to the present, 1 year after the game's launch, with the studio having lost roughly 80% of its workforce and no public announcement of what it's going to do next.
This is Aveum.
The industry needs more bets like Immortals of Aveum, but not at that scale. We need smaller bets like Palworld or Balatro, which did not have huge development budgets but still managed to turn profits within days of their launch. If experienced teams like the one at Ascendant Studios are able to build smaller projects while still maintaining the polish we expect from AAA games, they won't get guaranteed hits, but at least they won't have to spend 5 years of their lives to find out whether their project will make any money. That's it for now. Do give Immortals of Aveum a try if you can. It's currently available in the Xbox Game Pass catalog. I will certainly give it another proper try and hopefully get to the end this time. Thanks for watching.